Martin Keown, Arsenal Invincible, is with us this morning. We're with you all the way through until 1 o'clock. I've seen quite a number of messages go through this morning. We may as well talk about it. What's the latest with Jadon Sancho at Manchester United? Do you guys have any idea what's going to happen next with Jadon Sancho at Manchester United? This is what we know. It's understood that United are willing to let Sancho leave and that Borussia Dortmund have already held discussions internally about the prospect of re-signing their winger either permanently or on loan when the transfer window opens in January. What we do know is that Sancho and Ten Hag have not seen eye to eye. And of course, Sancho, 36 days on from his social media post hitting out at Ten Hag for his press conference comments, claiming that he wasn't training, his training methods were not up to standard. He's still training on his own. He's training with the Manchester United Academy side. Martin, I'll come to you in a second, Simon, because I'm keen to know how United get some form of return on what was a £73 million investment on Sancho. What has happened here, Martin? We're constantly told that Sancho apologises to Ten Hag, he might get his nose back into the first team squad again.
Well, when we spoke about this, you know, at the outset of this incident, we were talking about him going cap in hand to apologise, and I felt that's what he needed to do. Obviously, there's now a standoff. Clearly, there'd been an attempt to help the player through mental health. We assume that he went away, took him to Holland, didn't he? The country of the manager's birth, to put him with people and to care for him and to nurture him, to train as well, to come back, put his arm around him in a huge way. And then there's been issues on the training pitch. And then there's been this interaction with the media, which he made public, which was, I felt probably was a last resort from the manager because he wasn't getting enough. If you look at the return, Jim, it's really not good enough, is it, since he's been at the club? In terms of assists, in terms of goals, in terms of number of times he's been available, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
So the player
12
now,
goals in 82 appearances.
Yeah, it's not good enough. When you compare that to his record at Dortmund, was really truly quite outstanding.
Yeah, 114 and 130.
Maybe that's where he needs to go.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to go back. There's a new culture developing, isn't there, with Ten Hag? I say this under the backdrop of 4 defeats from 8 Premier League games and from 2 defeats in the Champions League. It may be that Sancho is just saying, do you know what? I'm going to be on an island. I'm going to sit and wait for Ten Hag to lose his job. Because can we really sit here with any real confidence that Ten Hag will still be the manager at Manchester United at the end of the season? Now, I believe he's trying to build a culture at the club. He's not happy with the behaviour of the players. Clearly, he's coming out to make that point. But maybe
you don't
Sancho,
believe that Sancho will outlive Ten Hag at United?
I think Sancho needs to go to the manager, and he of course, we talk about the oxygen every weekend when you play, and that's playing, isn't it? You live off the games. You're wasting time, Sancho. Go and speak to the manager and apologise. You have to find a solution to this. It's no winners at the moment, by the way, because they're not exactly benefiting from him not being available. They could have done with him in the last little while with all the injuries they've had. They could have done with him being on the pitch and actually playing to the level they expected him to play when he came to the club.
Well, he's never done it.
So it's time to give up on him.
Oh, totally. Gone. The moment he opened his trap, he was gone. There was no way coming back. And irrespective of whether he went into the manager's office and apologised.
So if you're that player, what do you do now?
You
work hard every day.
If I'm that player, I wouldn't have put myself in that position in the first place. I'd like to think I was a little bit wiser.
But let's just say you were. You had an aberration. You dropped from Simon Jordan's really high standards just for once.
Thank you.
What would you do?
Difficult to do. But if I was a player that had put myself in that position, I would accept the position I put myself in, and I'd probably look for a move. And I'd be prepared to take a move. And what United will do...
So that's what he's doing then?
Well, that's probably what's going to happen. And I thought that was always going to happen.
He's at Manchester United. It's one of the biggest clubs in world football.
He's not good enough to be at Man United.
You tell us every week how big Man United is.
I do.
Why should he leave there?
Because, like anyone else...
Knuckle down,
and get back in the team. I imagine
plenty
of players have signed for Manchester United that wanted to stay there.
Why do people want to run to the exit door?
Well, I don't think he's being run to the exit door. I think he's being ushered towards it. Because, first of all, I think his performances have been poor. He's got a track record of behaving in this way, both at international and club level. I don't think he's performed anywhere near the expectation of him. I don't think he's anywhere near the player that people made him out to be. And currently, United have put him on a 5-year contract, which cost them 73 million quid. They've depreciated him over 27 months. $1 million to a month. He's on their balance sheet at 40 million quid. They probably still owe Dortmund some money on stage payments for it, so they'll sling him back to Dortmund and do a deal at 40 million quid, and everyone will wipe their mouths of the situation.
For me, I think it's very sad. And I look
I hope the player learns a lesson.
Yeah, but I do feel, I mean, if I was a coach manager, I'd feel some way responsible that with the people that work under me, I have to get the best from them. And in some way that I've failed a little bit. Okay, I've had to crack the whip, but, you know, maybe I could have actually opened the door and said, look, come in. Tell me what you really feel. How is it really from day to day? He's training with the kids at the club.
But you could lay that argument anywhere, couldn't you? You were in the camp of suggesting that Aubameyang needed to be patronised, and we all know that the lift-off point for Arteta's management was getting rid of him out of the dressing room.
My point was that were Arsenal cutting the nose
but
off
you were
despite
wrong.
their face, because at that
but
point,
you were wrong.
No. For the end of that season, Arsenal did not have the services of an outstanding player who went to Barcelona, who actually secured Champions League football in that period.
You were wrong.
For the long term,
man, everybody goes where Arteta.
No, but you were wrong, Martin.
No, just
the culture of Arsenal changed.
It's not about wrong or right. It's about opinion. Okay, so I felt at that time that Arsenal could have secured Champions League football.
My opinion is you were wrong.
If Aubameyang had stayed. And he didn't stay, and the club he went to did.
But we're talking.
But it was the right decision for the long term. The long term solution at Arsenal Football Club.
That's right.
Of course, it was the culture again.
You're making but also on that run of form directly after Aubameyang was given the old Spanish elbow. Right, the Spanish archers. He was.
No, he came back to Chelsea. Chelsea paid 12 million for him.
And what did he do for Chelsea? Stunk it out there.
That's because of what he did at Barcelona.
But the point is, Martin, is that you were talking about the desire for managers to invest more time, and I agree with you that there is. If you sign somebody, if you hire somebody, whether you're a chairman hiring a manager or manager buying a player, if you fail to exact from that player what you bought them for, or if I fail to exact from that manager what I hired him for, it's in part my failing, right? But there's such a thing as called flogging a dead horse, right? You know, and in this instance, if Sancho has been given ample opportunity to perform at a level for Manchester United, both on and off the field, and in the attitude it exhibits, and we've reached a point where it is what it is. Now, what's the point of expending energy on somebody that you don't feel is worth it?
Exactly. And Ten Hag, Martin, to be fair to him, has got a million other things in his mind, not just Jadon Sancho. When's he going to show any kind of form?
I know, but I can't help thinking that they were fantastic days. I look back. And every day taken away from me, you think, you know,
but that's
please,
you're built
where
for
is that
stuff.
Arbitrator that can actually work? Someone who brings them together and says, "Look, boss,
but you were built for better stuff, though, weren't you?"
Not really. I was not far from perfect. I failed to listen a lot of the time.
But Martin, but
believe me, I'm listening
the point
here.
is you're listening. You're looking at Man United, and I don't go necessarily with Jim's thing that he's got lots of other things to deal with, because that's the nature, that's the price on the ticket, that's baked into the job.
Yeah, but he can't get bogged down with this any longer.
Well, no, he can't,
honest,
and he hasn't.
It's a sideshow.
But he hasn't bogged down.
The player has to be the one that makes that walk.
I agree, man.
He's not bogged down with anything. He's not bothered about it. The only people that are bothered about it are the media. He's forgotten about it. Gone. I've got bigger fish to fry. I've got other things to have. And if the player does come knock on my door, I guarantee what he'd have got from Ten Hag, he wouldn't have got a welcoming hug. He'd have probably got a slightly brusque attitude. And I don't think it would have resolved any situations. The moment that situation happened, the fact that it's not what Sancho said, it's the fact that he had a deep-seated belief that he was entitled to say it.
Yeah.
And that's the bigger problem.
And it's gone nowhere since. What do you do? Second guess it for me, Simon. Do you think Sancho goes back to Dortmund for 40 million quid in January?
I think that's probably the more likely outcome, given that Dortmund are interested. I don't think there's going to be a queue of people for him.
He goes back on loan, doesn't he? He doesn't go for 40. Are they paying 40 million for him? Well, you look at this return.
But if you look at it and say, if United have done it on stage payments and they still owe Dortmund some money, all of a sudden there's no money changing hands.
True.
It's a dynamic where the money that was owed to Dortmund isn't necessarily having to be paid to them. There will be a solution, but that solution, to my mind, will not involve Jadon Sancho, who, quite frankly, is not good enough to play for Man United anyway.
And playing his last game.
Ten Hag will want him out of the building. The problem is, will Ten Hag still be there himself?
Well, in the years
they can't keep losing games. I mean, if they'd have lost the last game against Brentford 1-0 down, have you seen a convincing performance at Old Trafford yet this season?
No, I agree with you.
Go back to the first day.
But I don't think having Jadon Sancho in the mix will make any difference.
Have a look at being 2 down to Forest. Have a look at 1 down to Brentford.
With you. I think
Matt, I think Ten Hag outlives Sancho at United.
Does he really?
I don't know,
Let's wait
Jim.
and see.
I don't know. He's not far wrong, Martin. If Ten Hag keeps on putting a team out like this, by January there'll be a pinch point.
If Mourinho was getting those results, the former players would be up in arms. I don't really hear it from the former players.
Okay.
Maybe Ten Hag has a personal relationship.
Maybe not just Sancho. Maybe Ten Hag's got it all to do too. We'll see.
Because I don't see it in the results.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.